everyone. We'll have a lot of slides to go through when I do research on these presentations. If you've listened to mine before, I try not to leave anything on the cutting room floor, so I will give you everything I have that I've discovered. So let's jump into it and look at the agenda. So we're going to talk about risk levels. We're going to talk about consumer payments, but also corporate payments, because I think they coexist, obviously, when you're sending out checks and so forth. Basically, setting the scope, oversight. You can read these. I don't have to read them to you. But what we're going to do is go through all this, and I'm going to throw some of the organizational behavior stuff I've learned over the years in there, some of the banking, some of the finance. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about specific ways, you know, maybe 8 or 9 type of items that you can specifically look at and how to look at it. And there's some references to digging deeper if you'd like. So without further ado, let's get into this. And the obligatory commercial for Graber Associates, and again, you can read this. We're gray hair, no hair. We do research and all this other stuff, and we're in those markets. So we're former industry analysts, bankers, reporters. I used to write research papers for Tower Group back in the day. Okay, so hopefully this isn't your office people, you know, the folks that you work with, but the first thing you have to do really is look at who you're working with, and you know, do you have the right type of people? Are you turning folks over? You see trends happening. Do you see people, you know, coming in off a vacation when certain things have to be done on a Friday, and they just pop in? Because that happened to companies, and it happened to a bank that I work with, where they happen to come in off vacation just to send some fraudulent transactions out on the Friday, and they weren't caught for a while. So taking this a pulse of who you have there, and not in a bad way, you know, don't be accusing them and so forth, but just who do we have, what are their backgrounds? I mean, this is your bailiwick. You need to protect this, and you need to have the knowledge and the background to do this. Do you have the required skill level and experience level? And sometimes people can be just doing their job day to day, but they don't know how to think like a crook, basically. And you need some of those folks in there, and you need to start thinking like that too. And again, I don't mean to sound negative, but in order to do a good job, you have to think a little bit that way. Do you have people on the bench that can come in if someone's out for an extended period of time? And it may not be in your particular department. It may be from other departments and so forth. What about staffing levels when things get really, really busy? Can you borrow, beg, steal folks from other departments and get them to pitch in? Okay? So just one slide on credit risk, because we usually talk about operational risk, transactional risk, market risk, and so forth. But for credit, I just want to make sure that you remember that this is part of the overall risk, that you can lose money, obviously, but simple things like settlement risks, lags, simple things like daylight overdrafts for ACH items, that sort of thing, and setting transaction and daily limits on your transactions, working with your bank to do that. So let's get back to getting the data together. So